Our guest speaker today is going to talk to us about the Northeast Tennessee Regional Recovery Center. And first I want to point out before I bring Tim up that Representative David Hicks has been very helpful and supportive on this. Mayor Patty Woodby, who's from Carter County, she's the Carter County mayor. She is the chair of the board of directors. I'm a director, but she's a better chair.
Yeah.
And she's been very instrumental in bringing all this together. But we owe a real debt of thanks to our guest speaker, Tim Hicks. If you'll notice, a couple of weeks ago in the Times News, the front page had Tim signing the lease for a whole $1 a year for the facility, but he was pictured there with Governor Lee. So Tim is the state representative for District 6, which is all within Washington County, isn't it, Tim? Yeah, it's all within Washington County. Tim's married to wife Carrie. They have one son, Kyle, daughter-in-law Gretchen, and 2 grandchildren. Tim has been owner of Hicks Construction for the past 42 years and has built homes for flood victims in conjunction with the Appalachia Service Project. Tim was elected as state representative to represent District 6 for the 112th and 113th General Assemblies. He currently serves on the House Transportation Committee, which is a really good thing for us, and House Transportation Subcommittee, and the House Education and Instruction Committee, House Education and Instruction Subcommittee, House Health Committee, House Health Subcommittee, and the Fiscal Review Committee, and serves as Vice Chairman of the House Calendar and Rules Committee. And he survived these elections despite being his campaign being managed by Stephen Sebastian, and Joe Carr knocked on doors for him, and he won despite that. So, way to go, Commissioner. But give a great Kiwanis welcome to Tim Hicks.
Hold it close to your mouth.
Thank you, Mayor Shull. I appreciate that. They've told me 3 times to hold this close to my mouth, so I'll do the best I can, but I have a voice that carries pretty darn good. So before I get started, I want to say, Chairman Hawk, it's an honor and a pleasure to serve with you, my friend. You know, coming in and not knowing much about what to do in Nashville, you have definitely been a big help, and it's an honor to serve on your committee. He sure knows how to swing a gavel. I can tell you that. We had to find that out on one of our first meetings not too long ago. So he's very thorough at it and can really slam the gavel down pretty good. It's proven. He about took his little helper's ear off one day. So, but we have a good time. We have you know, it's an honor to serve. It's an honor to serve the folks of Washington County, and really, you know, I mean, it's an honor to be in Northeast Tennessee. We live in a great place, and we got to work really extremely hard to keep it that way. So that's one reason I'm here, to do my little part in this world, and it is an honor. The Northeast Tennessee Regional Recovery Center. That's a mouthful. So we have sort of toned that down a little bit to NET RRC is the quickest way to say it. So that's what we're calling it. It's something that was thought of some time back, and I just want to go through a little bit of sort of how I believe that we got here, where we got in the predicament to where drugs is such a problem in our area. 25 years ago or so, meth entered the picture in Northeast Tennessee. It was brought probably from Mexico. It came through California, a lot of it did. I remember those days. You know, it wasn't too long after that, these redneck hillbillies thought that they could actually start making it themselves. And that's where the shake and bake meth labs that used to get busted, that's sort of how they came about, is people trying to make it here instead of bringing it across the border of Mexico so you could get it cheaper. So that's really where the big drug problem started then. You know, you always had cocaine, marijuana, you know, a few pills, but it really escalated when meth came about 25 years ago. Then sometime after that, what happened was, I guess Big Pharma sort of got involved, doctors prescribing too many pills, and a lot of pill mills in Florida. I mean, that was a big, I knew guys that would go to Florida and bring back 5-gallon bucketfuls of pills, okay? I knew guys, I had friends that was spending $3,000 to $5,000 a day on those. They would steal. These was good guys, okay? But after so long of being addicted, they would change. Their whole mood would change. Then they started getting into crime. They would sell every single thing that they had for that drug. It beat anything that I ever seen. I watched a lot go on. I watched, it consumes you. It totally consumes you. It makes you turn 180 degrees. And I can tell you, I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And I can tell you that I'm one of them, okay? If I left here today, right now, in a few minutes, and went and got a 6-pack of beer, tomorrow you would not know me. I am that bad. I realize that. I admit that, okay? And that's what it takes. You have to get people in the predicament to where they finally see that and admit that. And it's hard when you're in the middle of the addiction. I'll tell you it's hard. It's hard to get to that point. Crime entered the picture. I mean, that's part of that. Whenever you lose so much, you don't really care anymore. So crime became a big thing, and I think that's how recovery courts sort of started, is all of a sudden our jails was filling up, and it appeared that the number one problem was addiction. That's why they was in there. It didn't take judges long to figure out that that was the problem. So I think that is how our recovery courts was sort of born. Is a few years back, probably 15 years ago, they seen that they was going to have to do something and sort of separate these people a little bit from your hardened criminals. Your judges, as they have gotten experience in this, okay, I mean, you start dealing with these folks, you start seeing their habits. When I help folks through the recovery process. And after being around someone for some time, I can start guessing their every move. And that's what these judges do. A good judge, that's exactly what they'll do. They'll start getting, and on top of that, a good judge will start manipulating what people do. You're in that predicament to be able to do that. That's the reason that recovery courts work so well, is you really have them. You have these folks exactly where you need them and exactly where you want them. They're in a place to where they can be safe. So you could start helping them with their decisions by manipulating what they can do and what they can't do. It's sad that you have to do that, but that's really a big part of this process in making it work. That's sort of how I believe that the recovery courts came about and how the programs evolved. Then you had good, smart mayors, county commissioners, aldermen, people all over Northeast Tennessee that was smart enough to when these drug companies started having to pay up, they entered a lawsuit and started working on getting what's called the baby doe money, which was a very, very, very good move, okay? I was not involved in any of that. I mean, these mayors here, the people that your leaders in your communities, your leaders in your counties, they're the folks that made that decision. Very good decision, because it's starting to pay off now. It's starting to pay off big time. So that was a very good decision, and I applaud them for that. It come down to where when I was running for office, you had participants, most definitely. You had the recovery courts, the good system to go through. you started to have, you knew you was going to have the money, they started needing a location, and it became difficult to find a location for this. First, I think it was Green Valley. When I was running for office, they was talking about, Green Valley, and that didn't work out. The Lord has things of working out things, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but typically He works it out for the better. So who knows what the Green Valley project will become, but they worked hard, and it's very hard to find a place for a treatment facility of like what we need for this. It's extremely hard. And then all of a sudden, the prison in Roan Mountain closed. They took all the prisoners out, and as soon as the judges heard that and the folks heard it, they started talking about that prison. We took trips up there. We really started talking about this would be a good place. It's a little far out, but we can deal with that. I can tell you that in recovery from addiction, it is very nice when a person decides that they want to go into recovery, it's nice to be able to get out of the world. You need to step back and step out of everything that you got going on in your life. Because typically when you get to that point to where you're in jail, everything you got going on in your life is not good, okay? There's very little good in it. So you've got to get to somewhere to get out of that to be able to get your good thoughts going again. So I believe this is a great place to get out of the world. It's definitely far enough out to be able to do that. And I think it's great to be able to do that. So I could see that we really wasn't getting nowhere on the facility. So after my first year at the end of 2020 or after session, the governor's office called me one day and wanted to have a fundraiser, and I said, well, sure. So we set it up like it was going to be like 4, 5, 6 months off. It was in November. And the closer it got, I thought, I'm just not a big fundraising person. I don't know. I'm just not that kind of guy, I don't guess. I mean, I need to have one, I guess. But at the time, I think the Lord was laying something else on my heart. So I began to pray about it and began to pray, with my wife. And I said, look, I think that I'm just going to have a round table, some sandwiches, in a barn. It's a nice barn. And we're going to invite the governor in, and we're going to have some folks that has been through recovery, that has been on the other side, and now is working in recovery, and just talk about what that looks like for Northeast Tennessee. So that's exactly what we did. And we was blessed. The Lord worked it out to where Deputy Governor Butch Ely came with the governor. Whenever they pulled up, they had been to this barn to events before for politicians, and there would be cars everywhere. There was 3 cars there. So, they walked in, looking, where's everybody at? So I explained what we was going to do, and the governor seemed very interested, in somebody, it took the time to really. So we sat down, and we really had a great conversation about addiction in Northeast Tennessee. We talked about everything from kids starting school to our problems in Northeast Tennessee. And it was really good to hear from guys that had been through addiction and came out the other side and was working in either some kind of ministry, some kind of halfway house. One of them was now runs a youth camp thing, and it was just really good conversation. And the governor was going to stay for an hour. He ended up staying for about an hour and 45 minutes. He liked it that much. At the end, we brought in Judge Street and Judge Rice, and we sort of asked him, if the prison would be available, would he think about doing that? They left and they went to Carter County. They went with Mayor Woodby to her TCAP facility, which is a big part of this, is whenever, now that the funds are appropriated for that, we're going to let these guys go down at night and actually learn a trade. That'll be part of what they do, part of their program is what it'll be. But he went to Carter County after that, and after they left Carter County, he called and he said, what do you need? What are you asking for? And I said, well, honestly, I said, Governor, we're asking for the prison. We'd like to lease that prison. He said, well, don't you need any money? I said, well, I ain't gonna turn none down we're not. So he said, well, let us get back to Nashville and we'll talk about this. And lo and behold, as time went, 11 months later, we was signing a lease on that, and Families Free has stepped in. Families Free has ran our recovery courts in the 1st and 2nd judicial districts for a long time. They do a great job. They do a holistic approach. They treat the entire person. You get so lost mentally, physically, and spiritually in addiction that you just don't know who you are anymore. That's what these people do, is they help get you back to that. And then plus, a big part of this is a job. We are hooked up with some folks in Elizabethton that owns companies there. Mayor Woodby's going to let us use the TCAP facility. Whenever these guys, it's going to be a 12 to 18 month program. That's a long time to work on yourself. And a big part of recovery is a job. I've built houses my whole life. My dad started me when I was 14 years old. And I have to say, when I went through my addiction and I came out the other side, me having a trade and something to do and something that I could do well saved my life. It literally saved my life, because I was able to go to work and feel good about myself in a hard day's work immediately. I think God designed life that way. You all know that. You've worked hard your whole life. It is part of life. It is doing a good job, a good day's job for a good pay. It's very, very important. So when people get so much trauma in their life, it's really, really hard to see the other side. And that's what Families Free really helps those folks do. Let's see, job. Part of this will be introducing these new folks back to their families. That'll be something that'll happen midway through the program for these guys. They'll be introduced back into their family, and then some of them will be sort of led in a way that, hey, you can't go back into the same situation that you just came out of. There's no way you can go back in there. If you go back into that situation, your chances of making it through the recovery process is slim to none. These guys need to know that. And we're going to have them places, halfway houses to go after this. That'll be very, very important. One big thing that I noticed, I don't know if you've ever been to a recovery court graduation, but it is really something. One of the first ones that I went to, and what got me, is the courtroom was completely filled with people, okay? And there was 4 people graduating, and the courtroom was full. And I think Lisa Tipton, that runs Families Free, at the end asked, if one of these 4 people touches your life in some way, will you please stand? The whole room stood. So those 4 people touched that entire room and made a difference in their life. That is absolutely amazing that 4 people touches that many. I can tell you from experience that it only takes one person. When a family, your family, anything could be gone in 3 generations, without a doubt. It can be gone in 3 generations. My family was going to be gone. There's no question. The day that I decided to clean my life up and allow the Lord to help me, that day affected so many lives other than mine. At that time, my family was not doing well at all the way across the board. I mean, my son wasn't going to live another 3 years in his addiction, and he was 15 years old, okay? My dad was definitely on his way out, okay? Just a lot of folks struggling. But it seemed like when I made that decision, everything started to change. My dad passed away sober. My son today, after 12 years clean and sober, and runs my company right now. My entire family is doing good. I have 2 grandbabies that are sweet as they can be, that I love very much. So it's so important to get these folks to where they can make good decisions again, because it only takes one decision to really do good. I was in a meeting the other day with Governor Ely and some other men, and I said this the other day, and as they was leaving, Governor Ely said, I worked with Tim on a project, and this is exact words that he said. He said, this project is the best public, private, county, city, judicial, state government, and regional project that he has ever seen. Now, Chairman Hawk knows that Commissioner Ely's been around the block. Okay, he's been in several different administrations, and he's done a lot. And I believe when he said that he meant it. Okay, and this is a regional recovery center. Okay, and it is everybody coming together. The government can throw money at it, whatever it wants to throw money at. Okay, I mean, we can talk till we're blue in the face. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that money can come at this and government can come at this. But let me tell you something. You guys sitting in here and all over the people all over this community is the ones that'll make a big, huge difference in this. They're the ones, we're the ones, you're the ones that will make a difference in this program. We have a lot of issues, but we're the only hope. We are the only hope, and letting God work through us. One thing that this will encourage is what I call working upstream, and that's working more with young kids. This will get you into homes that are broken. This will get you, I believe that through the last 100 years, this is what I believe. I get in trouble for saying it sometimes, and I don't want to make you bad, but it is part of what I believe. I believe that over the last 100 years, each generation has said, I want my kid to have it better than what I had it. Every generation has said that. Kids today has it a whole lot better than the generations of 100 years ago. A whole lot easier, a whole lot better. But is that always the best thing? Is that always the best thing? A lot of these kids, whenever they get to a situation in life that they really need to stand up, they don't know how. So it's something that I challenge you, and I challenge you to look back. You know, some of you may have kids, some of you may have grandkids. Let them fail a time or two when they're little. it won't hurt them a bit. I don't believe always that the whole team wins. I don't believe that everybody wins in life. I believe you learn that at an early age. We take for granted anymore. I believe we as people learn more in between the age of 3 and 8 than what we realize about life that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. And right now, a lot of times we're taking that for granted. That's a big part. That's a big part of what's wrong with this country today. So I challenge you to really look at that. One thing that I want to do is I want to sort of show why I believe that this treatment facility is important and why it's important to you guys, and especially where you live. There's a lot of different kinds of treatment, okay? I mean, right now we have 28-day programs. We have quite a few of those, and 28 days is good. 28 days is good. It's 28 days is really not enough for someone that's really struggling enough to where they've ended up in jail, okay? That's not near long enough. Then you have MAT treatment, medical assisted treatment. Those places they're everywhere in Northeast Tennessee, okay? I am learning that there are good treatment facilities and there are not so good treatment facilities, okay? And then there are really bad treatment facilities. So in Nashville, you know, we try to work on that. We really try to work on that. But this paper that I have that's on your desk, if you'll look at that for a minute, I want to show you something. Has everybody ever heard of neonatal abstinence syndrome? That is NAS. That is when a baby is born dependent upon a drug, okay? So this came from the state's website. On the state's website, reported cases, now this is just reported cases, there's probably 5 times more than this, but reported cases in 2020 was 783 cases, okay? In East Tennessee, out of the 700, in Northeast Tennessee, out of the 783, 364 of those was in Northeast Tennessee. That's a big number. 48% out of those was from East Tennessee, and 59% was from Knoxville this way. Okay? Now, if you look down this list, you have East at 182 cases. You have Knox at 85. All of Northeast, you have 98. But look at Sullivan, 84 cases. More cases per capita than anywhere in Tennessee. Babies being born dependent upon an opioid. Okay? Now, if you go over here to the chart on the right, right at 62% of those was medication-assisted treatment, MAT treatment. In other words, being born dependent upon the drug that we're giving them for their addiction. Okay? And then if you go down to prescription opioid obtained without a prescription, that is buprenorphine as well. That is Suboxone. So if you add those two together, 85% of the babies that are being born dependent upon an opioid, they are being born addicted to the drug that we're giving them for their addiction to opioids. That's big. And it's bigger right here in Sullivan County than it is anywhere in Tennessee. That just blows my mind that it is that bad. Northeast Tennessee, it's worse here. I mean, we've got 50% of the cases is all right here in Northeast Tennessee. So that's why I believe that this is so very important. You know, I believe that we have settled for treatment. You know, MAT treatment works for some folks, but trust me, it does not work for everybody. Probably 95% of the guys that go up and go into this treatment facility that we're going to have done here in probably sometime in May, June, 95% of them will have already tried this MAT treatment right here. They will already, they'll have it in their system. If they're in jail, it's the number one drug snuck into our jails. It's the number one drug in Tennessee that's confiscated with the TBI. It's the number one drug. So that's what we're up against. I don't believe that treatment is for everybody. I do believe that the guys that we're going to be dealing with, that the treatment facility in Roan Mountain will be a huge deal for them. We look forward to opening. The lease is signed. The state paid to get the sewer treatment plant fixed. It's up and running. I think they're going to turn the water on here before long. We already have had some folks up there working, putting down new floor and painting. So I think here late spring we'll be opening, and we'll start out with probably 45 to 50 guys at the first of the program, and then we will probably up that to somewhere around 80 to 100 at a time that will be there, and it'll be a step program. I think it'll really make a difference in these guys' lives. So I appreciate y'all asking me to come. I appreciate you letting me talk, and I look forward to working with you. And I'd love to answer questions if anybody's got any questions.
Representative Hicks.
Yes, sir.